Hi parents, grandparents, and homework helpers. This is Ms. Campbell here to offer you a little bit of help in bridging what is happening in the classroom in math right now to what you can be doing at home to help your scholars succeed. Right now we are working on this concept of subtracting 2 and 3 digit numbers, and most of us know this concept as regrouping or borrowing. However, those terms we don't really use anymore because of the conceptual understanding that is behind subtracting. So I wanted to kind of give you a tool to help when you're trying to help your child do their best. To start off, we should have an understanding of what kids are coming in, what knowledge kids are coming in with at this point. In kindergarten and first grade, manipulatives are used very often to help them understand what a number really represents. So things like base 10 blocks are used fairly often. So for first, this would be our hundreds flat. Inside of it are 100 small unit blocks, like these. So in kindergarten, first grade, and second, we've been learning that each one of these units represents 1. We can group a group of 10 of those into a 10 stick. Sometimes these are called 10 rods. In our classroom, we're calling them 10 sticks, and you'll see in just a minute when we draw it out. So 10 of these can make 1 10 stick. All right? We also have learned that 10 10 sticks can make 100 flat. So understanding this as a visual representation, kids have had an opportunity to move them around, really helps them to gain the concept of numbers much better than trying to visualize what a 3-digit number actually looks like. So we first approached this with addition, and we learned how to make a new 10. Many of you, we talked at conferences, and you've seen on their homework that they were taking pictures of the units or dots and grouping them into a group of 10 to make a new 10. This is what was formerly known as regrouping or carrying the 1. We don't really use carrying the 1 term anymore because really they're making a new 10 or a new 100 in addition. So move forward now to subtraction. We use the same concepts because if the scholars know that we can group 10 of these little guys to make a 10 rod, then surely we can ungroup this 10 rod and give us 10 ones. And that's exactly what we're doing. So when given the subtraction equation 100 minus 68, the scholars know that we could represent this with a 100 flat. This 100 is what we start with. We're starting with 100. We've shown this in a few different ways. There are several different methods that your child could take. It's important to know that they don't have to show every single method. They just need to choose a method that makes sense to them, as long as it's mathematically sound. So we have this 100 flat. What we need to do is we need to take away 68 of those. So we have a few different tools that we've been using in the classroom to show how to subtract this problem. Wow. So the first one is that with our math curriculum, we have these excellent math boards. These math boards have really been a huge tool for us. The first way that we approached this was I just gave this equation and asked the kids to try to solve it on their own. They could use any tools that they had in front of them, and many of them started with the number path. So you can see along this math board, the number path goes from 1 to 100, just like that hundreds flat did that I showed you before. So many of them know, all of them know, that subtraction is taking away. So if I'm starting at 100 and I'm taking away 68, some scholars at the very beginning levels of development would start at the 100 and they counted backwards 68 jumps, or they would count back to the number 68. Mathematically, this makes sense. The next level of understanding said, okay, well, I could count by ones, or I could use the colors to help me to see groups of 10. So if I'm counting back from 100, I can count back this group of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then 8 ones. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68. And that would mean that 32 would have been my answer. Now, I have several students right now who are still using this method because that's what they understand. This is the very basic level of understanding subtraction, meaning counting backwards on a number line. Our goal is to help them gain a much better conceptual understanding so that we don't have to have a number line every single time, but also so that they can count in groups. Another great thing about these math boards is the dot array that are on the back side of them. So we have another method we've used is the dot array to find our subtraction answer. A lot of my students right now really love the dot array because they can still visualize what it is that they're subtracting. So this is like the next level of development of an understanding of the subtraction. So this dot array includes 100 dots in groups of 10, just like the 100 flat that we were looking at earlier. So to show that we're starting with 100, the scholars start by covering up 100 of the dots in their groups of 10s. They know that 10 sticks equals 100, and so we're representing that here in this picture. They want to take away 68. Well, looking at this, we only have 10s. So what can I take away right now with this format? I can take away 6 of the 10s, which is the same as 60. So we'll take away our 6 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Now they know that we've got to take away 8 ones. The problem is we have 4 10s. So where are we going to get those ones from? Well, we know that these 10s are made up of 10 ones. So we represent that in our picture. We show that there are 10 1 dots right underneath that 10 stick. So when I break that 10 stick apart, I can see that it was a group of 10 ones. Now I can take away my 8 ones. And if I take away 8 ones, I'm left with the 2 ones, showing that we have 3 10s and 2 ones left when we subtract, which gives us the answer of 32. So the great thing about these math boards is that a lot of these tools are here for us. But what do we do when we don't have math boards to use, especially on homework at home? So this is how you can use these concepts to help your child at home if they're still in the developmental stage of they need a visual representation to find their answer. So here's how we would represent that without having the actual math board itself. So let's say we have this same problem. How do we show 100 minus 68? The scholars can draw those 10 sticks to show the 100 that we begin with. Ten sticks. We know that this is the same thing as 100. The first thing we did before was we erased the 6 10s. Now the difference between having a dot array and not having one is that with the dot array you could see what was left, or excuse me, what you started with. But without it, you can't see what you began with. And so it's hard to track as a parent, a homework helper, or me, the teacher, to see what steps the scholar actually took. So when we are not, when we don't have the dot array, we are going to X out instead of erase. So we can take away 6 10s. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of our 10s are taken away. But remember, we have these 8 ones. We don't have any ones right now, so what are we going to do to get rid of 8 ones? The scholars know that inside of this 10 is 10 ones. So we represent this by showing that we're going to trade this 10 stick out for 10 ones because it's the same thing. So you can either, well, I'm on a whiteboard, so I could have erased, but I'm going to mark it out. Pretend like this is a pencil and paper. We're going to trade this. We didn't get rid of it. We're trading it for 10 ones. Okay, that arrow shows that we just traded it. Now that I have 3 10s and 10 ones, I still have 40. I need to take away that 8. I'm going to again mark out my 8 ones. That shows that we have 2 ones left with our 3 10s. 3 10s and 2 ones is the same thing as 32.